do the action side.
It's recording, right?
7.
Yes.
All right, so if we can start with the candidates introducing themselves from left to right.
All right, so my name is Amanda. I'm running for your UC Lit president. So basically, I've been involved in the Lit the past 3 years. I was a first-year rep, and I was services commissioner for the last 2 years. So mainly, I ran the formals, the biggest one being Fireball. And so I've had a lot of experience on the Lit. I've worked on the Lit. I've worked on a lot of tasks on the Lit, such as con review. I've seen a lot of different councils come through. I've seen a lot of different people come through, and through that, I've definitely been able to see the inner and outer workings of council and how council can be the most cohesive and just like it's been a great experience so far. And UC's been my home since day one, and the Lit's been an important part of that since day one as well. So I just want to give back to the community and do the best I can to make the best UC.
All right. Hi everyone, my name is Snow and I'm running for the Finance Commissioner. So for myself, I've been on the Lit since my first year at UC, and I started as a first year off-campus rep and the Deputy of Communications shortly after. And then I had a really great experience there and continued my second year currently as the SEC Spirit of Communications Commissioner. From both of these experiences, they're very different, and I learned a lot from each position, from purchasing more inventory of spiritware or like making sure all the social medias are going great. So I think I would love to just contribute more to the UC community, and by being the finance commissioner, it aligns with all my studies, and I really hope that I could do a great job and everyone's support.
Hi, my name is Ramsey, and I'm running to be your vice president next year on the UC Lit. This year was actually my first year on the Lit. I was a mid-year rep and the off-campus deputy, and I feel like through my experience there, I made sure to stay actively involved on the Lit, like all facets in it. Anyway, I feel like through that experience and through the experience I've had with other things such as Rotman Commerce Law Association as director of events and other things as well, I have the skills required to fill in this position as VP, and I really want to give back to UC as much as possible. So I think it's my way to do it.
All right, so the first question we have is directed to Amanda and Ramsey. How do you intend through your policies and ideas to further unite residents and commuter students, thus strengthening the singular and inclusive character of UC? As well, do you have any initiatives that will bridge further connections to students in other colleges?
It's a long question.
Yeah.
Want to go first or maybe?
Since Ramsey just spoke.
Okay. All right. So in terms of resident students and commuter students, I think this year actually we came a far way with making the CSC a more welcoming space. I myself personally felt a lot more comfortable coming into the CSC, and I think that had a lot to do with our off-campus commission. And so, of course, I would strongly encourage them to continue that next year. Just in the commissions overall, I just want to really push the non-lit involvement, which I've been pushing for ever since my second year when I first became a commissioner. I really want to push that non-lit involvement, and I think a wonderful way to do that is through commuter students and through the CSC, and pushing that a lot here, because this is and make it a more welcoming community, so that even resident students feel comfortable coming in here. And I think having events in here also, it opens up the space to people. It makes it something that people know about. Because like first year when I was in res, the way I found out about it was through events and things like that. So doing things like the dance tutorials in here that we did, and just like a lot of the other events that take place here, that can also incorporate resident students. In terms of getting, I definitely want to have a better connection with UCRC. That's one of the things that I'm going to start with right away, because I feel like they've just been really disconnected from everything. We never know what's going on at UCRC. UCRC, I have a feeling, does not know what the Lit is up to. And I really want to get connected with the UCRC president, who technically should be coming to our meetings. They're technically an elected member. They're a voting member on council. They have a vote. And for the past 2 years, they haven't been present. And that's not their fault at all. It's on us. We should be enforcing them to come, and we should be encouraging that relationship. And so I think having that relationship and getting to know more about what they're up to, as well as making those connections so that we tell resident students what's going on. So doing things like putting reps into houses. They tried that a couple years ago. I'm going to try it again because I think it's a great idea. The best way to communicate information is word of mouth. And so in our first year when we were in residence, we had actually three first-year lit members in our house, and it was a huge help to be able to have that communication inside the house and at house meetings to relay information from the lit, and not all houses have that. So I really want to at least have reps maybe write out a newsletter that they can send to their dons, that the dons can read out at house meetings so that members of the house know what's going on, things like that. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in terms of that. In terms of other colleges, we've definitely upped our intercollegiate relations the past few years, and I noticed it this year. I think we definitely had a lot more other colleges attending Fireball, and I saw that firsthand when I looked at the ticket sales and everything. There was definitely a lot more involvement in events through other colleges, and I heard people from other colleges talking about UC events, and that's something very different that in my first year, second year, I hadn't heard as much. So again, I just want to continue that. I will directly create those connections through SGRT. I will also encourage my execs to create those connections through things like SLC, which should be coming up this summer, Student Leadership Conference. Unfortunately, we missed it last year, but I really am going to push for as many people as possible to attend because it is a really great opportunity. And for those of you who don't know, the SLC Student Leadership Conference, is a conference that all the colleges, leaders from all the colleges, not necessarily just their student societies, but other leaders all come together, and we do kind of like leadership workshops, stuff like that. And it's a really great opportunity to kind of meet your, like, what's the word? Meet your counterparts, yeah. Meet your counterparts at other colleges so that you can work with them and things like that. So I'm definitely gonna keep encouraging that as well. Anything else?
Well, yeah, I might hit actually a bunch of the points I was gonna bring up. One of them was with UCRC. While going through con review this year, like I wasn't actually technically on con review, but I attended all the meetings and contributed as much as possible. And through that, well, I noticed that it does technically say in our constitution that the UCRC president should be present at our meeting, like our council meetings, and we should technically have a more like close relationship with UCRC. So that's definitely something I want to push next year. So like we really have two options. We split from UCRC, or we make them either follow Constitution or like I don't know, change it up in a way that they're more like made to come to our meetings and stay in contact with us. Obviously, we don't want to split up with our UCRC. We'd rather like form that bond. And in general, also if we do have a better relationship with UCRC, like event communication would be better on both parts. So we'd be able to advertise their events and then be able to advertise ours and vice versa. And it'd be also nice if like the Dons would be like, oh hey, since we know all about all the UC Lit events now, here they are. Like this one's coming up next week. This one's coming up the week after. They have house meetings every couple of weeks, so it's like it'd be really useful to have that. Yeah, that's for UCRC. As for intercollegiate things, actually this year I was part of I was on off-campus commission. So Narosh and I, we actually worked with other colleges on forming the whole Community Appreciation Week, so OXA. And I'm gonna from now till like we finish up all the like details. We're still in the the process of actually making OXA a thing, like for long term, kind of like Winterfest. So that's something I want to make sure it keeps happening and follow through with that. And obviously encourage more initiatives like this to happen, maybe for the other commissions if they would like to contact the commissions for other colleges, respectively. On top of that, also I've been already in contact with a few of the candidates for presidents and vice presidents with other colleges, and they've already expressed interest in working together for like whatever, and we'll have talks after elections. Yeah.
All right. So this is a question to Snow.
Okay.
What is the single most important thing you want to achieve as a finance commissioner for next year?
Okay, that is a really good question. I think I wrote this along with my posters. Basically, the most important thing I believe is to make sure we get the student body and UC involved with the finances, because after all, you guys are the ones contributing to the funds that we have to give back to you guys. So, of course, I want to make sure that anyone who wants to get involved should come in the commission. I want to have a really, really big commission where everyone can put their input on how exactly the budget works, the operating budget we have for the year. They can make sure they can come to our commission and check out exactly the step-by-step process, and also make sure that what we're doing is, correct. They can verify for themselves. Because I'm sure a lot of people always want to know how their funds are being used, and the single most easy way to actually for them to see that is for them to come to the Finance Commission and see the breakdown of the budget. Because of course we're not hiding anything, and we're making sure that we allocate our funds properly.
Now, a question for Amanda. What will you do to increase UC participation when it comes to elections and events?
Okay, so first of all, like I said, I want to increase just in general reps in the community, and I actually want to take the rep position and kind of just like not scrap it per se, but I just want to write up a whole new like rep role, because right now the reps like what do they really do? Okay, they're forced to join 3 commissions, sure, but that doesn't make them any different than a UC student, not a non-elected UC student who wants to join a commission. That really doesn't do anything. Reps are hardly ever kept to their responsibilities. They're hardly ever held accountable. I've seen reps do literally nothing for an entire year. And so I just want to take that role and completely change it. So I want to have them conduct town halls, and I want to come up with these dates for town halls like as soon as possible so that we can advertise them during orientation, because that's like when you have all the first years have their eyes and ears wide open. And so that's when even on the welcome days too, eyes and ears are wide open. You get this information into them early, and so they're expecting it to come. So you make these town halls a thing that's going to happen, and that's where you can directly hear from students, very similar to the Leader Town Hall that took place last year before orientation, which was wonderful. You get to hear ideas directly that people might not normally write an email. They might not normally think like, oh, I'm going to send an email about this. They're right there at the town hall, and they can voice their opinions. They can say whatever they need to, and things like that. So that would be primarily run by the reps. I also want reps to, last year, they made a survey, which they sent out, and they actually got some pretty valuable feedback. Unfortunately, it didn't reach too many people. Forget the exact number of people that answered it, but I think it was over 100. And maybe Will, would you know?
Sorry?
Details on the survey last year? Maybe not.
Not off the top of my
I don't
head.
know,
Sorry.
but we definitely sent one out, and it was great to get the feedback on it. And I want that to happen as often. I want that to happen pretty regularly, so we get feedback on our events, and we know what to fix, what to make better, what people liked, what people didn't like, whether people knew about the event happening, whether they didn't know about the event happening, things like that. So that's, I think, the first thing is the reps, getting them more out there, getting them more involved in residence houses, getting them more involved in gathering information about what the students think. And same goes for elections. The same goes for advertising, for anything in general. It should be by mouth. And I mean, some reps do that already, and they gather information from their classes, and they tell people about things in their classes. But not all reps do that, and I want to make that a part of their role, and I want to make that part of their responsibility as the rep. In terms of, what was I going to say? Oh, other involvement, commission. So the biggest thing that I learned from being a commissioner is you have to create things for people to do, and it's not easy. It really isn't, especially when you have, something that's so much easier to do by yourself. For example, for me, like picking a menu is so much easier to do on my own. It's much harder to arrange a meeting with other people and then tell them what you want and then have them do it and then keep tabs on them while doing it. But honestly, that's what makes all the difference in making commission members feel like they're contributing, and making them feel like they're making a difference in the event, and making them feel like they're learning something and they're gaining experience and they're developing personally. And that's what I want to come out of commission members and commissions. And so what I want to do is make commissioners have, from the beginning of the summer, starting, May, June, have them come up with a game plan for the year, have them come up with a game plan for the commission, create tasks specifically that they can say, okay, I'm going to have commission members do this, I'm going to have commission members do that. That's what I did for my commission the past 2 years, and I found it to be very successful. I had a lot of involvement from a lot of different people, and I had a lot of enthusiasm. And I've seen other commissions do the same thing, which has also been extremely successful. And so that's definitely one thing that I think will help commission members to be more involved and bring them out more. And then, of course, if you have more of them involved, you have more outreach into the community. You have them talking to their friends, telling them to come to the event that they're helping with, things like that. And word just spreads a little more and a little faster. Clubs, things like that, I really want to push. A lot of students don't know about the Student Initiatives Fund. I want to get that out there. Tell people that they can create their own club, and it's not that hard. The club's deputy needs to be a little better trained, I think. I don't really know what they did this year, so I'll learn a little more about that and make sure that they're on top of their game and know what's up. In terms of committees, there are a lot of committees that we normally elect lit members to. Committees that people don't know about, things like college council, I think there's a scholarship committee, things like that. And really, it only has to be a UC student, but we normally just elect people from the council. And I only found out myself this year that it didn't have to be a UC student. And really, any student can be on college council. Any student can be on these different various committees. And these committees are the ones that work with people like Donald Ainsley, people like Melinda, people higher up in the college. You get to meet more faculty members. And a lot of people would really like to have those opportunities. And it's too bad that we don't make them known to the community. It would make more work on our council, but I feel like it's worth the extra work. It's worth bringing in more students to have those opportunities. Public deputies is the last one. So public deputies is something that was really great this year. I'd like to have them a little more incorporated into the lit. Some of them were around quite often and did a lot of work and were around JCR and were known by council. Others not so much. So I hope that all public deputies would be able to be known by council. We'd be able to know exactly what they're up to. Maybe commissioners could mention them every so often in their reports, things like that. Because I really like the idea of public deputies. I was really excited about it last year, and we just in con review this year we made a new way to elect deputies, which I think is going to be really great. There's an application process and stuff like that, but it'll make it a lot more legitimate than it is now. Whereas like, oh yeah, you're a deputy, okay. But it'll make it a little more of a position with responsibility, and it would be up to the commissioner as well to come up with a set of responsibilities for their deputy ahead of time, so their deputy knows what to do. They know what to expect. Their deputy knows what's expected of them, and so they can pull through on their tasks.
All right, so the next question is to all candidates. What was the biggest mistake made by the UC Lit over the last year, and how could the Lit have handled the situation better?
Oh God, there's so many.
The biggest.
The biggest.
What, in your perspective, the biggest? I'll give you guys a minute to think.
Okay, I have one just because it's kind of going on right now. And I think that this is directly a mistake of the Lit as a whole and not per se of one person in general. But our audit is extremely late this year, and because of that we haven't been able to have our AGM yet. And I think that mistake just arises from keeping track of our finances. I mean, it's really easy to just like after your event is done, just to be like, yes, it's done. Trust me, I feel that with Fireball. Yes, it's done. Oh my God, no more work, nothing. Yes, I'm done. Whereas, you know, you still have those finances sitting there, and you have to make sure that they're organized, you know, and it's on top of all the commissions and those commission members and whoever else, you know, paid for things or whatever to get their receipts in, and it's up to the commissioner to organize those finances so that it's not a huge mess when it gets to the finance commissioner, because like that's no fun. The finance commissioner has enough messes to deal with. They don't need your messes too. So I think that's definitely one of the biggest mistakes, and I think to overcome that you just need to stay organized. You just have to have a plan in action ahead of time and say, okay, this is the format we're going to use when we expensify things. This is the format that the finance commissioner is going to use to keep things organized. This is the format that we're going to use for, you know, submitting expenses or writing our budgets or keeping track of costs, you know. And I think just like that's because that could be a really big, that could have a really big consequence. Whereas some mistakes are fixable, but I think not keeping track of our finances to the point where we can't get an audit done is really detrimental and like could really lead to really big consequences. And I mean, you know, that led to problems with Diablos, that led to problems with everything. So I just like keeping track of finances is probably the biggest thing that needs organization and needs a little bit of improvement on.
That just put like a whole ton of pressure on me. Finances being the main deal, but that is really true. Honestly, that's how our whole council operates, because if we don't have funds, we can't, you know, purchase things that are deliverable to UC, basically. So with that comment, honestly, I was gonna say the same thing, especially since it relates to me a lot more. Well, no, it relates to all of us, but especially to me, because I do see this year when I speak with Crystal because I've been trying to learn a lot from just sorry, I don't know if it turned off or not.
Yeah, it's always.
It's still okay. So yeah, because I've been considering for the whole year that I've been aiming to run for a finance commissioner. So just throughout the year, I've been talking to Crystal and trying to figure out like what are the key components to this position, and definitely keeping track of the finances is number one. If you don't have like a very streamlined pathway to making sure everything is in order, then there's going to be a lot of trouble at the end of the year. So that definitely, I think that would be my duty to make sure that all the execs are on track. So from things like I want to implement things like a variable analysis to make sure like after every event, the budgeted amount is exactly or almost not fluctuating way too much from the actual amount spent. And of course, like people say you want to pull money from here and there if one is over under, but that is not how it should be. It should really just be exactly what we budgeted. And although it is tedious, we need to make sure that we bring it to the meeting, to the table when we need to adjust the budget instead of just allocating to another event. Just because that makes it easier for the auditor as well at the end of the year. They can view things exactly as they should be. So for sure, we were supposed to have our AGM like a month ago, but a month or two ago. But it's gonna happen soon, thanks to the auditor figuring all this out, even with all of our trouble that we're giving him. So yeah, that was definitely a big situation for this year, and I hope as the finance commissioner I can make sure that everyone's on task with all the execs are on task with their finances, and we're using like a streamlined procedure basically.
Okay, I guess aside from the whole finance thing, I think the next biggest issue the lit had maybe this year was the whole Diablo situation. Although now, like, we're happy to say it's up and running, and we figured out a temporary solution as a satellite sort of thing. But I feel like if the lit had, I guess, better taken care of or better, I don't know, kept track of like their financials with Diablos, or kept track like with management and certain things like that, and dealt with this maybe as soon as they got elected last year, or just throughout the summer, we wouldn't have lost the whole semester of Diablos being open, which was unfortunate. So yeah, in my opinion, that was, I guess, the next biggest mistake the lit has made. And as VP, I'll make sure so from now we're gonna until the end of the semester we have this solution, and I guess over the summer with the core exec we're gonna have to discuss what would be the best step forward from here. Either we'd want to keep the same thing for the coming year, or if you want to make it more back to more student run, and go back to like more traditional ways with like hiring managers like ourselves and thinking all that stuff. So we'll have to look at all our options over the summer. And that'd be the next thing to do.
This is for everyone. How do you plan on getting more community involvement that goes beyond our current pool of members? For a college that prides on its inclusivity, the fact that we only see familiar faces being an active part of the UC community doesn't advocate very well on diversity.
Can I start?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's a good point, good part to put that point in my platform here, where I have this idea where it's called UC Points, and pretty much it's my way of getting UC students of all kinds to come participate in everything from council meetings to like just looking at our Facebook page and like sharing and liking those stuff, to participation in all our events. So obviously just like it's an idea just I had thought of, and we'll see if I can make it work. But it would be that if a student comes to participate in our council meeting, not just like shows up, or like, well I guess shows up, but like also like actively tries to contribute, or comes to our event and fills out the feedback forms I'd also hope to have after every event, then we reward them with a few UC points. And what could they do with those UC points? They could cash them in later on for like spirit wear. So it's just like it's certain, like I don't know, that's like an idea I had to get students to just come out to like, because I don't know, it's not easy to get students to get them to come on a Sunday like for a council meeting, right? It's like, although we try to promote it often, we need sometimes like to give them more of an incentive. That's the solution I have at the moment. As for just other events in general, obviously like better advertisement and planning would be useful. To make sure if we have an event let's say this week, we advertise it 2 weeks in advance, maybe depending on the event. Just to make sure commissioners stick with the deadlines when it comes to like planning and like letting students know about that. Yeah, that's the general basis of it.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you can guess, like, the focus I would have for getting UC students involved is definitely from the finances side, because in UC we have a lot of commerce students, and in commerce we don't really get more than the theory. So I think that a really, really great idea is just really to get a lot of the commerce kids, or anyone that is interested in finances, to really just come and get some hands-on experience about how a budget works. And right now it's really coincidental that in my accounting course we're learning about budgeting. So just from recent knowledge, like, there's a lot that people can learn, and like even though it's just from the textbooks, you can't really have the same experience that you get with just doing homework questions and problem sets than actually going about and making a budget that we use in real life. So that is a really key way to get UC students involved, especially from the finance side. And it definitely, with more communication, I think is really crucial. This year I was at CC, and I tried my best to get the message out, but it's really hard because there's different medias. Like, on a informal media like Facebook, everyone's always on it, so we assume that was the most easy way to get people to see our info with our just Facebook events and everything. But I'm sure there's a lot of places that we're missing out on when it comes to social media or any other platforms of communication. So definitely, I think we need more input from UC. If there's any suggestions on like what other websites or what other social media we should join, we should definitely get on that and create a new UC Lit page for whatever social media.
Okay, first and foremost, advertise in advance. This has like sometimes all the difference in making events successful. Sometimes it literally makes all the difference in advertising your event 2 weeks in advance as opposed to advertising for it 3 days before. I've seen it happen. I've seen both extremes. For example, from my experience with Fireball, I literally make the event 3 months in advance when I start ticket sales. And the amount of hype that grows for it is phenomenal. Just giving it that time to grow is phenomenal. And you see it. You see it gives more time for people to talk about it. It gives more time for just like the news to spread. You know, and I know it's not fair to compare Fireball to something like Coffee with the Profs, but still, you know, it gives rise to a little more time for things to spread outside of the main group. So advertising is like key, and that is something that I will push execs to do as they create timelines. You know, create a timeline with making a Facebook event page on there. That's what I do for my events. So you advertise ahead of time. But getting away from the advertising part of things, I think a lot of it comes from actually making a different kind of set of events. The key example of this was last year when we had our first drag show. And this year, actually, with Rocky Horror, I found it a lot, is making, I feel like those are kind of events that are still like most 100% within UC values, and were 100% phenomenal events, but they also kind of reached into a different crowd of people that is normally not the normal, you know? So it was really cool to see those events kind of expand, you know? And I think doing different events like that, especially different events like the Coffee with the Profs and doing the different debate topics, that reaches into very different crowds of people too. And, you know, the more academic side, maybe people focus more around debating and more around academics as opposed to pub crawls and club nights, things like that. So I think that's definitely a key, is thinking about how those different events can reach into different crowds of people. I know from past experience when we were organizing date auction, it's like, you know, we were strategizing on how to get different crowds of people out, you know, and it definitely pays off when you think about it that way. And then also just, I think it comes from the council itself. And this year especially with this council, everybody was just so much more welcoming. And it just like completely the stigma of the lit being a clique, I think just kind of like fell away this year. Though I'm sure it's still there, and I'm sure people will disagree with me in the fact that it fell away. But I really think that this year, just like council members being as welcoming as they were and as involved in different communities as they were, really helped, and it really brought out different people and made people want to be involved with the lit, and made people want to like what we do instead of being all like, oh, the lit sucks, they're just a big clique, they're just like, they just want to be popular or whatever. I don't know what kind of stigmas there are, but I think it really comes from the council itself and how the council presents themselves. And I think this year we did a really great job starting that and starting to drop that exclusivity kind of feel and that vibe and making it a little more welcoming, making JCR a welcoming space, which hopefully will happen with Diablos when we get, well, it's back on its feet now, but hopefully we can continue that progress too, because Diablos is something that definitely brings in different kinds of people to JCR and things like that. So, yeah.
I don't know how many people this applies to, but core exec and frosh exec are both full-time jobs. How will you manage both in tandem throughout the summer and beyond?
That won't be applicable to me because I didn't apply for frosh exec. Because I think in general finance is already a lot. I probably have to do something here and there during UC orientation. So I already just have this one full-time job. That's just this one. Yeah.
Well, at the moment, I don't have a job for the summer. And as like when it comes to like juggling different sort of tasks, I'm used to that. It's not new to me at all. I've done, like this year, for example, I've done lit, RCA, three different sports teams, while also like balancing with my school as much as possible. It's something like I know how to do. It's just all about time organization and just making sure I'm on top of things, which is what I'm used to. So I'm not quite worried about that.
No, I agree. It's about time management. It's about using that Google Calendar. It's about using those doodles. It's about scheduling things in. Those are like some of the main tools that I use all the time, and I think it really contributes to me staying on top of things. To-do lists. Oh my God, they're my best friend. I don't know what I'd do without my to-do lists. Nothing, because I wouldn't have anything to do. Anyways. But I think a lot of it too is communicating with the people around you. I'm always okay to delegate tasks. I do admit I have a lot of pride in being able to handle my own, but I'm also willing to admit when I have taken on too much. And I'm okay communicating with my team members and saying, look, I'm really busy, can you maybe take this on? And instead I'll take on that other thing when my stuff cools down. I've done that for courses, I've done that for lit stuff, I've done that for during orientation week itself as a head leader. I did that all the time to balance my commitments, and everybody around me has always been really willing to help. And I think that's just like a key part of being a team, being willing to take on other people's tasks if they need help, being willing to help them out, and also expecting them to be able to help you out. And I think when you create a cohesive team like that, which I've always been able to create or be a part of, and it can really help you juggle those things when you have when you're willing to ask for help. And I think that's the biggest thing. But yeah, I have full confidence in myself that I'll be able to handle both successfully. And
I just want to say, like, I truly believe the same for them too. Like, both Amanda and Ramsey have done a lot throughout the year. Like, they're able to juggle things, and you can see it throughout the year that they've been able to accomplish more than just one task. So I definitely think that they're going to be great at multitasking as both exec, frosh, and UC Lit.
Okay. How will your personal relationships affect your working dynamic? Bracket, serious question bracket. The president-VP dynamic is an interesting one that becomes complicated
I knew this question was going to come.
by personal reasons. How will you mitigate any adverse consequences that could follow from your non-lit dynamic?
That was very well worded. Whoever worded that, I'm just saying.
It was very well done.
Okay, I went first last time.
Yeah, you go right.
Okay. Well, first of all, we've before. How do I word this? Okay, fine. I'll just say it. Before we started dating, we
Wait,
already.
which of you are dating?
Nancy and I, before we started
I'm dating Amanda.
Did you guys not know core exec was a quite complicated relationship?
Yeah.
It's a complicated relationship. It's a
Always we're interacting.
Yeah. Interacting. Anyways, we already planned to run for these positions before we became involved with each other, and I think that's a key point because we were already looking to these positions seriously from the start. It's not like we're doing it because I don't know why else we'd be doing it, but
We're not imitating House of Cards.
yeah, we're not doing it to imitate House of Cards. We were already very passionate about these positions from the start, and I think that passion will continue on, if not stronger, because we do enjoy spending time with each other, and we get along really well. And like we've already worked together on a lot of things, and it's never changed anything. For example, we read through con review chapters together, and came up with changes together, and it was fun. You know, we got a lot done, and we were really honest with each other about our opinions on like political situations and things like that, and we managed to get through it no problem. And if we disagreed with each other, it didn't cause any problems. We disagreed with each other, and we discussed it as I would with anybody. And I think it's important to note that my deputy this year was also someone very close to me. She's one of my best friends, and that didn't come. We actually lived together, and our working relationship did not come into play at all in our friendship. And in fact, it probably enhanced our friendship even more. Creating something together like Fireball is a big thing, and it was a lot of fun to be able to do it together. And we managed to keep a great working relationship, as well as a great friendship too. And even if we disagreed on something, we didn't yell at each other. We didn't take it into our personal life. We didn't take our personal life into our working relationship. We made everything kind of go together. And I'm not saying that I'm going to keep it separate, because I won't, because I'm the same person. That's just that's the reality of things, is that I'm the same person. I'm not keeping my personal life separate from my president life, because they go together. But I'm going to make them work cohesively together, and overall it'll just be really fun.
If I have to add to that, I don't want to sound redundant, so I'm gonna so pretty much what Amanda was saying. I'd say also on top of that, like we both had experience working in teams, just separately, just in the past, like tremendously. Just we have had that kind of experience, so we know what it means to work in a team, and we know like how to deal with like arguments or like not seeing eye to eye or certain things like that. Just like you never know what happens. We have that sort of experience. We know how to like approach it. So like that's not like we know also how to separate. Well, like we don't take like for example, as you were saying about the whole con review thing. She's not afraid to tell me like if I told her let's change con review to like scrap the lid, she'd be like you're wrong.
I'd be like you're wrong.
Yeah, like it's not something like we wouldn't hesitate to sort of tell each other what we think as president or VP think is best if we have the like different opinions and so on. Yeah, that's I guess one like the thing I'd like to add to pretty much mostly what she was saying. Yeah.
Change of pace here. This is actually a question someone submitted.
Wait, was that other one not actually submitted?
No, it was. I just want to preface this question.
Yeah.
To all candidates, who would win in a fight between a grilled cheese and a taco?
That's a hard question.
Wait, who would win in a fight?
Between a grilled cheese and a taco.
I think a grilled cheese.
I say that's a trick question because they'd both be in my mouth. that means that they'd both be like eaten up, so they wouldn't be able to fight.
I'd say grilled cheese because it's cheese. It's sticky. They have like walls of cheese. Tacos are
Taco falls apart, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. It already breaks on its
Taco
own.
kinda like,
But
just
you can't
like-
even stand on it. Something like so.
We haven't heard from Ramsey
Grilled
yet.
cheese.
Well, if you're to compare grilled cheese to taco, grilled cheese is pretty simple. It's like I don't want to call it basic. It tastes good. It's not. It's not basic.
You
But if we were to compare, like grilled cheese has bread, cheese, and maybe butter, or sometimes people add ketchup to it. But a taco, on the other hand, you can add like literally whatever you want to it, and it's still considered a taco. So in terms of diversity, I'd say a taco wins this one.
That has nothing to do with
Wow.
their fighting in the
Yeah, they're fighting for diversity.
As for tacos, hard shells. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess it'd be a close fight, but I think taco would win. Yeah.
I can take questions from people in the audience if they want to ask questions. Anyone?
It's not as bad as the crowd. I'm a crowd now.
David has a question.
You guys kind of touched on this, I guess, a bit. So other than keeping track of the this is for Snow.
Okay.
Other than keeping track of the finances, what do you think was the biggest financial mistake the LIT made this year?
Okay. Well, for my experience, I think definitely one thing we did was that we started a app. In the beginning, we were committed to making a UC Lit app, and unfortunately, there was a sunk cost there. That basically the reason why we didn't continue is because there's a renewal fee each year that is quite substantial, and we realized that if we are to develop this app for this year, and it doesn't go that well, like there's no point in trying to create a public following for this app if it's not going to be feasible for the rest of the coming years. So that was definitely, it took a little toll on our operating budget, and I think that was a mistake, but we're going to learn from that mistake now, and we're going to utilize the free platforms that we currently have and maximize our communication through that. But yeah, that was an experience with finances.
Anyone else have a question?
Oh yeah, so I guess the platform point all three of you are running on this year is to get more Lit involvement, more commuter-friendly events and such. I think one of the biggest problems with Lit right now is that the council meetings are on a Sunday. I don't believe that like an off-campus student will make the trek up to campus on a Sunday to join your meetings. And it's like not only is it kind of a hassle for students to come, even like current board members might kind of have to like sacrifice a lot of their time to come down on a Sunday. And to my knowledge, no other college council on campus has their meetings on a Sunday. They're usually on weeknights. So I was just wondering, have you guys ever thought of changing council times to like a weeknight or to like a Friday at 3 p.m. when nobody has classes anymore?
Good answer first. Okay, so that is something I have been thinking about for a while now, and a lot of students have approached me that complaint. So I don't know. At the moment, like I look at the pros and cons of this. So having meetings on Sundays, the main reason we do have that, I think, is because we have more time to discuss, and we're not limited to we don't limit discussion to the time we have. For example, on a Thursday evening where people might have school the next day, right? I think that's the biggest point to having meetings on Sunday. I do agree it isn't very commuter friendly. I feel that because I have to commute a while every time, but at the same time, that's also like kind of part. I don't know, like the idea where I was bringing the UC points. I was like also thinking about that. Like, oh, okay, if they do make the effort to come to this meeting, I will I'd like to reward them for that. That was part of the reasoning behind my whole UC points idea. But I think it would also be useful if we did have I guess we have all our meetings on Sundays. It could be useful to have maybe a few of them or like a third of them, or I don't know if council finds a time where they think is best, maybe for shorter meetings, like an agenda that's really short. We do it on a weekday instead of a Sunday, and hopefully we'll get more people to come out to the meetings. Something else we also thought of, I also thought of when people were talking to me about this, was what if we live stream, or if it's on a Sunday, like we live stream it so people can from home trying to be part of the whole council meeting and give their inputs from there. But yeah, it is tricky to also find a time during the week. Like if you tell people on Friday night, that's almost just as bad, because usually community students want to go back home on a Friday night, or most people want to do something better with their Friday night, and it's hard to find a time where all of council can be there. Whereas Sundays they really don't have, unless they've told us in advance, they really don't have an excuse not to be there as an elected member. But yeah, it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
We're in sync. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that scheduling conflicts, like nobody has class on Sundays, and even if, well, one, other councils are a lot smaller than us, it's easier to arrange times that everybody can attend a meeting on, say, a weeknight. So that's definitely something to consider. We have a big council. Externals, when they have to come to meetings, budgets and stuff like that, like maybe if you create a weeknight that works for council, it may not necessarily be accessible for, you know, an external group, say Follies or Diablos or somebody who has to come to a meeting for whatever, or clubs who have to come to a meeting for whatever. They might have a late night class that night, you know, and it just doesn't make it as accessible for them. That being said, obviously you can have plans on a Sunday too. I'd also be concerned about commuting back late at night. I think that's worse, quite honestly, commuting back late at night than commuting on a Sunday, but I don't commute, so I don't really know. But yeah, honestly, I found Sunday meetings to be pretty, then again, I don't commute, but I think Sundays are pretty, like, a pretty good day because you can get out quite a few people. Whenever we try to do things on weeknights, we have before, we used to have exec meetings on weeknights. We had like an exec rep meeting that, like, one time in December or whenever it was. And attendance is low, you know, people have assignments due the next day, or people, you know, at least on a Sunday, it's a little more, you can work around it a little more, whereas on a weeknight it's kind of squishy.
I think that we can obviously always keep an open mind about your suggestion. It's always been a Sunday thing, and I commute as well, so I do feel the pain of commuting down on Sunday, especially with the subway, you know, also being really delayed and slow. Yeah, exactly. But it is definitely really hard with everyone's schedule is conflicting. No one has the exact same schedule. So the only feasible other day during the weekdays would maybe be Friday. If it's something like, if there's a lot of people interested in coming to our meetings, and Friday is really the day they can make it, of course we can start a poll or something and see, you know, what the public in UC wants and what would be more catered towards them. But I commute as well, and like Sundays are probably, I see the reasoning behind it being on a Sunday, because it's just, we're all really relaxed at that point, and it's a slow day, but we get a lot of things done on a Sunday basically. So I like that. It's a productive Sunday. Yeah.
Any more questions? No. Do you guys have any, like, closing statements?
Do you guys have any questions for us?
What's your position?
No, well, I think this, I can speak for all of us when we say, like, if there's anything you'd like to see from us as CoreSec next year, like, please, like, don't be even, like, the slightest hesitant to come approach us and tell us anything. Like, we're always open ears.
Alright, I guess we can wrap up. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Vic.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys for
Vic,
pretty impressive of
yeah, this is a good crowd. Good job, Rick.
Don't vote no.
Imagine if it could record.
Let's go.
We got that on camera. And cut.